And I'm going to call the Loudon County Commission Workshop for June 15, 2020 to order. We have a list of public that would like to speak. So, first up, looks like Tim Amos Loudon. Did I say it right or did I ruin your name? I'm sorry. Step to the mic and tell us what's on your mind.
Thank you. I'd just like to comment on the proposed zoning change on Sticky Creek Road.
Okay.
And express my opposition to that. And I don't know, never having had to deal with something like this before, so I don't know if I can ask a question, if you can answer it now, or if somebody can get back to me later. But you know, I've learned a lot of things through this process. One of the things involving cell towers is that, you know, it's limited as to what you all can or can't do, oppose, not oppose, all that kind of thing as far as the zoning, and then also allowing for the tower to be built. Federal government's passed a law, I understand, that allows cell companies to do pretty much whatever they want within reason. There's not a lot of protection for us as human beings. I take, for an example, how many years and how many thousands of people died from lung cancer before the federal government acknowledged cigarettes could cause cancer. The emissions that are put out by our phones and those cell towers that are beaming that radio frequency radiation out, the effects of that are a great concern to a number of people, and I'm one of them. So that's the main reason for my opposition. So what I've been told is if I can get support from the community that's going to be affected by the placement of that tower for opposition to it, if we bring that opposition to you and you all vote against it, against the tower or against the rezoning, and I've been told, well, the cell companies will sue the county to get that tower, okay? In your past experience, I mean, has that happened? Have you had to deal with that before? If you do that, you know, how much opposition do I need to bring back to you? Because, yes, I live in a rural area. That's one of the reasons I moved out there. I didn't ever dream that I would be living in a place that I would have a big tower that I would find in a big city somewhere right in my backyard. So I'm crippled, basically, somewhat in my opposition because of the limited numbers of neighbors that I do have. And, you know, some people don't care about certain things like that in regards to their health. And so garnering more opposition may be difficult for me. I don't know, whether indifference, out of ignorance, or whatever. So I guess my ultimate question is, how much opposition do I need to bring back that's viable for you as a commission to act in support of those who are willing to band together to oppose this? So
we will always listen to the public, and I'll tell you the process. If I remember right, and I think Jim Jenkins is in the back, that went through the BZA last week on Tuesday.
It did.
The next thing that happens is it'll be read tonight, and then on June 29th, after budget adoption, the entire commission will vote on it.
Okay.
If 6 people are for it, it'll pass. If 6 people are not for it, it won't pass. So, on June 29th, when it will be voted on, we'll hear from the public, and the more the merrier when it comes to this. The more that comes, the more the merrier.
All you need to contact
and your commissioners.
If he opposes it, I will support Mr. Whitfield's position.
Okay.
And he's the District 4 commissioner.
Right.
Okay?
We faced a problem such as this before as you're going out Highway 72. The church that's on the right going out, I think citizens got together with another landowner and they relocated the cell tower elsewhere, which was not as visible. So do you think that might be a possibility?
I don't know. I don't foresee it as a possibility just based on the property owner's lack of communication with me. He doesn't live there. He lives on the other side of Lenore City. So, he doesn't really care about, I've tried to communicate with him. He does not care about any of our concerns or opinions. So I wish there was an option. I really do, but unfortunately, I don't feel that it is. The other thing that I found interesting is the support that U.S. Cellular has brought for as a basis for putting that tower where it is. The expanded coverage service area seems to be very small, which I find very interesting. It focuses really around the Grimes Road, Steaky, Corinth area right there solely by itself. And when you look at the spread of towers in that area, I don't know. I know you guys have no input in that, but just localizing what I have seen, I've yet to see how that's going to expand to a significant number of customers for them. But I wish it was an option, but I don't really feel like it's going to be.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Have you inquired to anyone else in the area that would be interested in putting that cell phone tower on their property?
No. I guess I could personally take it upon myself to do that. I never would have thought that would, because my thing there is, U.S. Cellular's already invested a lot of money in trying to put it in this place, and
Steve Harrison.
They got a lot of money.
I know. Oh, I know.
Steve Harrison, I believe, is the property owner that's where they located the cell tower, and I think it was pretty lucrative for him.
Oh, sure.
I know at least one other spot they looked at, what road do you live on, Mr. Raines?
I'm on Callaway, but, the Sticky Creek backs up right to me. He's my direct neighbor, so.
And I think that cell phone tower is approximately going like in the middle of that large field in there.
It is, and it's going to be a tall tower. It's going to be 290, 300 feet tower, because it's not in a high area. That's the other thing. It's not the highest spot in the area.
And
So.
I know you had a question, and your question was, have we ever been sued over a cell phone tower? And I'm going to have to direct that.
I'm not aware of it.
Because that-
I don't
sorry,
remember
attorney.
anybody else.
The one we have.
Land?
We had the issue out in 72 where they,
Is that one the only time, though, you voted it down?
That's right.
And it was actually resolved. You didn't necessarily have
I
to
think
take much action.
Didn't locate on 72. I think it's the same one.
Yeah,
I believe it's a movie.
it wasn't
The
surprised.
fellow did he threatened to sue, and my response to him was, that's what we've got attorneys for, is go to court. So,
Okay.
see, we never heard from you after that.
we're
Yeah.
always going to err on the side of the residents
Sure.
for that, so.
Gary, your man.
Yeah. Well, we're not alone in opposition, but with all that's going on and stuff, and when it comes down to it, I think I can get some folks to come, but if I bring 6 people to a 50-person fight, so I guess that's what I'm getting at, so.
That man right there.
Right there.
Just have them all contact him too.
Okay, all right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Rich Anklin.
Good evening. Last month, I sent an email to you all about the Solid Waste Commission and the possibility that Republic was going to buy out Santec. I don't know if you know who Republic is, second largest waste company in the country. So I went to the Solid Waste Commission meeting and found out some interesting things. The CEO and the gentleman by the name of Ben that shows up at all of these meetings called Steve Fields back in February to tell him about this pending acquisition. Steve supposedly then called Kevin and informed him.
Kevin Stevens.
Kevin Stevens.
I'm sorry. Neither of those two gentlemen in the subsequent months from February through last week's meeting said a single solitary thing to the other commissioners. When they were questioned as to why that occurred, Steve fell back on hiding behind the SEC, saying that you cannot talk about mergers and acquisitions. I would believe that if it was putting it in the local paper or trying to trade it behind the scenes, but I believe that he had an obligation to the other commissioners to inform them that, because they were undergoing constant 2 years' worth of negotiations to extend that contract from 2027 out multiple years. Ben, when he was questioned, said the Department of Justice wouldn't let him tell anybody. I'm sorry, it would be the Fair Trade Commission, not necessarily the Department of Justice. I think Mr. Fields did a disservice to this county by not informing us, you in particular, because you're one of the larger stakeholders, on the pending acquisition. That is going to close this quarter. You think dealing with Santec's tough, wait until you start dealing with Republic. They dropped $580 million up in Massachusetts last year, buying up everything they get their hands on. The article that I sent you specifically addresses why are they doing this. They bought a landfill over in Alabama, they want the one down in Chattanooga, and they want ours. 2, bring garbage up from Atlanta. Now, one of the solid waste commissioners said, gee, that doesn't sound like an economical proposition. Well, let me explain something to you. My son now works for Covanta in Montgomery County, which is just outside of Washington, D.C., one of the largest collection points in the state of Maryland. 67 high-cube rail cars go 100 miles north a day. If you don't think it's feasible, Atlanta's 183 miles from here. It's feasible, gentlemen and ladies. The other thing that came up in that meeting, which really had dismayed me, and I've talked about this before, there's 120 acres that we bought next to that landfill. That part of that contract says they're going to take the dirt out of it and leave you with a 60-foot hole across 100 of those acres. And the current footprint is 53 acres. They would not guarantee in the negotiations for the current contract that they wanted to extend, closing 10.7 of those 53. That's abominable. It should never happen. They're dragging $3 million a year out of that place. We get $250,000. We should be getting a lot more out of that. If you take the 7 years that's left on that contract, their portion is $21 million. Add another 10, it's 30. Add 20, it's 60. Take that hole they're going to put in the ground across that 100, it's another 50. That landfill is very, very, very valuable to this county. And it shouldn't be given to Republic to bring Atlanta waste up here. That's one. Now, in that meeting, Ms. Kelly and Larry voted to suspend negotiations with Santec on that extension. The commission voted 6-0, including Steve Fields. But I think that Steve Fields should be removed from that position. He is not working in the county's best interest, nor the Solid Waste Commission's best interest, but that's up to y'all. Second thing, when I drove around the corner tonight, I'm very dismayed that 14 months past the fire at the courthouse, it's still not sealed up. In January, I went to a meeting with them. They were supposed to have it done in a couple months. It's 5 months later. Half the windows aren't sealed. Part of the roof isn't sealed. If there's anything worth salvaging in it now, I doubt it. But that's just me. The third thing, I gave you a piece of paper because I understand that you want to buy an electronic voting system for the tune of $5,000 up front and $3,400 on an ongoing basis to do the collection of the votes on topics in our meetings. So I sat down on my computer today and I drafted this chart, which lists all the commissioners on the left side, who motioned, who seconded, and what vote. And on the bottom is room for amendments. This costs about $1.98 per meeting. That ongoing $3,400 is going to cost you $283 a meeting. I don't know why you can't do something like this if you want to record. It'd make it easier for Tammy, I know it would. Sometimes buying electronics is not a good thing to do, especially when you have ongoing costs. $5,000 up front, $3,400 ongoing cost, and I understand that you all have to buy portable computers for each of you, about $1,000 a piece. I don't know. Just consider this. And the last thing I'd like to point out, and it's probably not the right meeting, but I've got the budget that was printed in the newspaper. Before I came to the meeting, I read Loudon City School Board voted against giving raises to their teachers because...
Lenore City.
Lenore City.
I'm sorry, Lenore City. Because the state withdrew funding for them. It's a pass-through. That's where they get most of their money for raises. 52% of this budget for Loudon County is salaries. The teachers haven't been working since mid-March. What was saved in that budget of $42 million last year? And please don't tell me they were all working, handing out lunches, because we even had the school buses delivering lunches. There should have been some equity recovered in this last 3 months. That's all I have to say, and I'll be back at the budget meeting review. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. You want to address anything on solid waste?
What Richard reported is true, that evidently Republic had a meeting, and so did Santec with Kevin Stevens, or not with Kevin Stevens, with Steve Fields and Ben Johnson from Santec, and stated that they were in the middle of negotiations about purchasing the landfill. Steve Fields did later go to Kevin Stevens, our attorney, and tell him that they were in negotiations, but that it was talk. So nothing else was said to the rest of us on Solid Waste Commission. I was very upset about it. I had found out about it right before Richard sent an email that Republic was looking at buying us. It was very disturbing at the meeting to find out also that even though we knew nothing about the negotiations, evidently Republic has had an opportunity all this time to review our negotiations and our amendments that we have been proposing to Santec. So they've been putting their input in, but we did not know. So the more that the meeting continued, I was very frustrated and very upset. And I did make a motion to stop negotiations because I do not feel like that we are at a point where we can honestly negotiate with Santec at this point.
Do you feel like Mr. Fields needs to be replaced?
I feel like that Mr. Fields owes some explanation. I really do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request that the commission request Mr. Fields and the attorney come to our meeting next, and we have maybe a 30 to 45 minute discussion with them and why we haven't known. Because if Kelly and the other gentleman, it's bad when you get something like that, and Richard, thank you, but it's bad when they're doing private negotiations. That's not serving the public's interest, and it irritates me.
Irritates us all.
I don't disagree with you, Commissioner Mears. I will direct that Steve Fields join us, along with Kevin Stevens, to explain what's going on. Because I agree with you. And the first I heard of it was an email from Richard.
Yeah, I sent you all an email too.
Okay.
Are we required to take trash from Atlanta right now if they wanted to?
No, we have a circle of 150 miles.
Our next meeting is
Out of
July
county waste
20th.
is
It's going to be July. Let me get
July
the
20th is our next scheduled workshop. Our next voting meeting is the 29th, that's budget. We don't need to do that on that night.
As soon as possible.
It'll be June 20th, and next voting meeting would be
July.
August 3rd. July 20th, and then August 3rd. Okay. Thank you, Richard.
That meeting, from what I'm hearing right now, and if we feel like it, if we can have a call meeting after meeting with those two gentlemen to put something in force, maybe we need to do that.
Well, we're just one of the stakeholders. Let's remember,
Yeah.
the Solid Waste Commission is the authority.
There's three.
We can't really, we
Do
have
much.
to depend on them to do it.
Yes, but we do go on what our stakeholders would like. So
We could
even
check
though on our negotiations, we're going to have your input and have had your input on what our negotiations have been with Santec.
But who appoints the board?
County and the two cities.
Yes, they all
The
have.
county has how many slots? We appoint 5,
Mr. Field is a county appointee.
and we can replace him if we want to.
Yes.
Is he a paid employee?
It's minimum.
$10 a month. Something like $50 a month.
It's $50.
Doesn't sound, just on this side of it, of course, there's always two sides, but it doesn't sound to me like he has served our county public well and it's been forthcoming. This all sounds shady to me from one end of it to the other.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also think maybe Larry Jameson would make a possibility of a good chairman,
Well, that's not up to us either.
No,
but we can voice it.
it's up to them to vote.
We can voice it.
Okay. Sheila Smith. Come on down.
Well, I was totally unprepared to do this tonight. I live in Fort Loudon Estates number 1, and Mr. Bill Hildreth wrote the covenants and restrictions that a lot of us, most of us in this room have known over the years and respected, and he wrote the covenants and restrictions against mobile homes. I'm not personally against mobile homes. I've lived in one. I was 19 years old and bought my first house when I was 22. And mobile homes are fine, but not in this neighborhood. And Mr. Hildreth was very clear about not wanting mobile homes in a lakefront community. And there is a lady that says that she is going to install one, and no, none of the neighbors can do anything about it. She's very adamant about that. And she was issued a building permit. And of course, I don't want to get into second and third hand information here, but this little bit of information was repeated to me, that she was issued a building permit and it's not going to be policed, that the neighborhood has to hire an attorney and it's a civil matter. I have a big problem with that, and my neighbors do as well. It's clearly in the covenants and restrictions. So, and there's several of us here tonight. Like I said, I was not prepared to speak at all, but we have a problem with it, and
You're doing fine. Let me, did Jim sneak out?
No, he's back there.
Jim, can you answer mobile homes in where Fort Loudon Estates?
Fort Loudon number 1, and one of my questions is, if a building permit came before the Planning Commission for Avalon or for Tellico Village, somebody wanted to put a mobile home, would you not scratch your head just a little bit? Just a little bit, and say, oh, rather than just sign the paper and say it's okay? Because yes, it's an older subdivision, but it is so old that houses are being torn down and $1 million houses are being put on lakefront property. There's not a rubber stamp that makes lakefront property. It is what it is.
I can't make any more.
Exactly.
Jim, what's the rules on that?
Sir, our office only enforces the zoning resolution of the county. TCA gives the county the right to adopt a zoning resolution. The building commissioner has the right to interpretation. I serve in that role. And the Board of Zoning Appeals is set up to hear appeals to that zoning resolution. Subdivision covenants, you can have deed restrictions, you can have subdivision covenants that affect many properties. We're not in a title search business. We don't enforce those covenants that are given to a homeowners association. We wouldn't have that ability to do that.
So when somebody comes to your office asking for a building permit, is there ever any questions asked, like, is there a deed restriction on this, or nothing? You just, what do you base the issuing of a building permit?
We base all our permits being issued out of the zoning resolution, which is the county land use law. That and the subdivision regulations.
See, that was one reason I put this on the agenda tonight, is it kind of gets to be redundant when you have, we issue a building permit, and you're doing, I'm not mad, but when we issue a building permit, and then we put additional burden on the people living there to have to hire an attorney to go interpret whether the building permit is viable or not.
Yes, sir.
And this is the second one. I've had one in each estates now that wanted to violate the covenant, but I was wanting to help them. I think they have a legitimate gripe, and like I said, those are old subdivisions, and like I said, have been around a while, and like I said, they do have a covenant. And I think there's a deed restriction on the deed that was issued.
Clearly.
So, but right now, I mean, in Jim's defense, he's doing what his job description requires. The county doesn't title search or whatever. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, kindly.
Go ahead.
So, I know Mr. Eaton's well, worked with him quite a bit. He's spot on in what he just said. In fact, this body can do nothing regarding manufactured housing except for single wides. Tennessee state law says this: notwithstanding any provisions of law to the contrary, no power or authority granted by this code to regulate zoning or land use planning shall be used to exclude the placement of a residential dwelling on land designated for residential use solely because the dwelling is partially or completely constructed in a manufactured facility. There is an exception to that, and that is single-wide homes. Zoning regulations can be used to prohibit the installation of single-wide homes. What you have here is a situation that I've dealt with many times over the last 25 years. Restrictive covenants are private contracts that run with the land, and the proper way to enforce them are through Chancery Court restraining order actions to stop someone from building a residence or making a modification to a residence in violation of restrictive covenants. Now, it doesn't hurt my feelings at all for y'all to say this, or anybody says, I know nobody wants to go hire a lawyer. Nobody wants to pay a lawyer. But sometimes that's what you have to do, and that's why Chancellor Williams is elected every 8 years to decide issues like this. And unfortunately, this is a situation where you have to go to court to enforce your rights. I've done it many times before for people in subdivisions, and that's the nature. This body can do absolutely nothing in regards to
So we have mobile home park regulations. Do those only apply to single-wide homes?
Yes.
Could I go in and put a double-wide trailer park wherever I wanted to in R1?
As long as it meets the other requirements of R1, yes.
Okay. For those who don't know this gentleman, that's Bob Bowman, he's the county attorney.
And that's state law.
That's state law, you can do nothing to change it.
So when we issue the building permit and things, so does it not go before the BZA?
No,
No.
Does not?
No?
So covenants and restrictions are worth nothing, even in a lakefront community that prohibits mobile homes?
Oh,
You can do it anyway?
Absolutely not, absolutely not. That's why you go across, I don't know where Chancellor Williams meets now, let's say across the street to the courthouse, and file a lawsuit to prohibit the person from violating the covenants. That's your remedy. That's how you enforce restricted covenants. It's done all the time. These lawsuits are very common.
If there was anything we could do to
We do
stop
it.
that from happening, I'd vote for it in a minute. But that's one
Enforcement
reason.
is just a civil matter.
But I wanted y'all to come tonight and to have your voice heard. And I don't, like I said, all I can say is I support your effort. And I'm not, whatever whatever could be done, I'm for that. I just wish, like I said, I know you don't know where to draw the line at, Jim, but to me, it would be, if they come for a building permit, say, for your building, do they have a covenant or restrictions, and have they been made aware of it before you issue? That seems like a simple question to ask is, in this subdivision, do they have a covenant? Do they have HOA? If they do, is it clear with them before you issue a building permit?
But is that legal?
Because you can, don't mean you should.
I don't think he can do that.
He can do that.
You can't do that?
I think that'd be.
All he does is look at the size of
He can't do
the
it.
request and do it. Okay.
All right.
Well, this is education.
Now, there would be nothing wrong with Jim educating someone who comes in, say, are you certain that this is compliant?
Compliance.
Restrictive covenants of your subdivision.
Let me ask you one, Bob.
Yes, sir.
I've always heard this, and I've had the same problem in my district more than once, let me assure you. If you have an active POA or HOA, do they have more ability to enforce somebody, like say someone that has a real active when they pay their monthly dues and that sort of stuff, do they have any more greater authority?
It depends on the language.
They would still have to go to Chancery Court, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, a homeowner association could possibly issue a fine if the covenants allow it against the property owner who's in violation. But in this situation, I think they want to get it stopped before anything comes out of the ground.
Exactly.
So there would be no violation. So again, the action would be to go to Chancery Court. Now, the benefit of a homeowner association, there may be a ready pile of money there to hire an attorney, or many HOAs have an attorney on retainer. Another, in things that I've been involved in, you have a group of affected property owners who go together, pool their money, hire an attorney, and file them.
Can they get a stop work order on this?
They can get a temporary restraining order, which can be done immediately.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And let me add this one part. Any consequence at all in this case, like Bill said, if we could do it, we would do it. Even if we did it tonight, it probably legally wouldn't affect what's going on yours, because everything I always get grandfathered in from this day forward. I had a situation in a subdivision up in my area, same thing, a lot of concerns. I have no idea what this person's wanting to do in Fort Loudon Estates. What they wound up putting over in what I was involved in was nicer than every house around it. So I don't know what they'll be putting in over yours, but when they brought it in there and got it all set up, it was an asset to that community far beyond what the stick-built house. So I'm hoping maybe, worst case scenario, if it winds up happening, at least it'll be something that's more aesthetically pleasing to the community.
Have y'all seen what it's supposed to look like, or have any idea what it's supposed to look like?
It's a double-wide mobile home. That's what I was
Double-wide mobile home.
The other thing is, I'm not on the agenda.
Across the street from lakefront property.
Yeah, and we had no idea it was happening. I know that in Fort Loudon, too, a similar incident, you told me about it, I've been there and I've seen that lot, and I know exactly what it was. They were going to build a tiny home, right? And a sign was posted. A sign had to be posted that told the residents what was proposed. We had nothing. The only reason we know as far as I know, anybody else tell any different, is the woman walked across the yard. I was out mowing my front yard, and the woman who bought the lot and intends to bring the trailer walked over to me, introduced herself, and told me who she was, and I said, oh, and they're clearing the land, there's a chipper there, there's people cutting down trees, and I said, well, I see that you're clearing the land. When do you start to build? Just a question. She said, oh, no, I'm bringing in a double-wide mobile home.
The other one was a little different, and they were asking for a zoning change so that they could build, in essence, both summer.
Oh, it's the zoning thing.
Yeah. But, and that's why anytime you have a zoning change, they will post a sign that says.
That's the difference.
Yeah, building permit, you know, you could, if there's any other lots in your subdivision, I could go down there now and get a building permit for a double wide.
Well, that's,
The covenants.
I don't mean to interrupt, but that's one concern. There's maybe 8 or 10 vacant lots. It could be Trailer City in the middle of lakefront properties, which our property's taking nosedive.
You know,
Property
again,
values taking nosedive.
like I said, if there's anything I can do, I do it right now, but it looks like the chancellor is going to have an opportunity to hear your case. Now, you do have a stop work, you have a request to.
Yes.
Have you already filed a stop work order?
Well, we've sent her a letter.
No, I mean in
Chancery Court.
Chancery Court.
Well, we have a lawyer who sent
We're
her
this
the letter.
close. We're on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make a little suggestion?
Sure. Absolutely.
This is awful. If you know this lady that is doing the mobile home or whatever, you might even want to, if you have any idea of the mobile home place, because it's a possibility that they're doing some of the work with her financially and things, you might need to just pick up the phone and call them and say, oh, by the way, just to let you all know, we're in the middle of taking her to court. You might get them to slow down their work.
Know who she's dealing with.
Yeah, well, it'd be pretty easy to find out.
And, you know, and for what it's worth, the lady that's looking to move in, she set up an appointment with me, and I told her the exact same thing that y'all are being told tonight. And I told her, you might want to get a lawyer before you start moving anything, because worst case scenario for her would be you put it in, and all of a sudden you got to move it out again, you're out twice as much. So she got the same advice that this body's giving you all night, to get a lawyer, and I think ultimately he'll think he'll rule with the covenants that are, with the restrictions that are in place.
Thank you.
So from what I've heard tonight, it looks like Chancellor Williams is going to have to resolve this issue one way or the
I believe
other.
that's the appropriate thing to do.
But it looks like you have the document.
Especially with that HOA.
Okay, Ramona Smith Sutton.
I'm just another neighbor at Fort Loudon. Same thing, same issue. Y'all have pretty much covered it. I did want to, if I can approach, I would like to give y'all a copy of the petition that was made by our subdivision. And I would ask everybody that's here from Fort Loudon to stand up, please.
Thank you.
Tax ground.
Well, welcome.
Okay, y'all come out.
And I understand what y'all are saying, but I do think that something needs to be changed in our county. And I understand you're saying it's a state law, but you know, state laws can be changed.
Yeah, you know who your state rep and state senator is.
Okay, that's not everybody. Come on, guys.
There you go, they were standing up.
This is not half of us. That's just the ones that came tonight. Our petition has over 60 signatures on it. We didn't want to bother you with 10, 12 pages of signatures.
I told you about how many, the number of residents that turned out and signed the petition.
Right. And I do believe that it should be something, I understand that it might behoove him, as you have suggested, to speak, because I got a copy of her deed. Her deed clearly contains the restrictions.
It does.
And
I heard he has a copy of it too.
You got it?
I understand. But it's just a shame. I've been there 28 years, and I'm one of the newbies. That your home and your subdivision and everything that's so nice is going to be devalued if she's allowed to put that in.
Well, hopefully,
Be sure to get hold of your representative, Laura Russell, as state representative,
I'm sorry.
Lowell Russell is.
Lowell Russell.
Representative. He's a good
Of course, the folks, there are people that build those kinds of homes that have a huge lobby and lots of money.
And the thing that upset me was the fact that she said, oh, don't worry, I'll take the tongue and the wheels off.
Okay.
Well, we got off to the right step right there, didn't we?
Yeah, how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, I didn't sign up to speak, but since we're talking about the land values, in your resolution, online, I got it online, on Article 1, the purpose of this resolution is to provide, it says public health, safety, and convenience and general welfare, but number C is conserving the value of land and buildings. That's in your resolution? Is what the planning and codes goes by. Good point. Could that not apply to what we have here?
They superseded by state statute.
Yeah, state law supersedes that. State law has instructed these folks that they can't do anything to regulate that type of housing.
Can't do it.
And if we fail to comply, they can do everything from withholding money to fines to all kinds of things. I think y'all are in the right direction.
It's a lot of work.
I think I know.
We have to do it every time anybody wants to do something.
I would probably,
This is going to be, one sentence going to be every single lot.
Go ahead.
The ones I've been involved, you do it one time, you're probably not going to have to do it again.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one more question. Did her lot, did she have to furnish you that she is having her test done so that her septic system would work? Or you to issue her
The state of
permit?
Tennessee has to issue her a septic permit in order for us to issue a building permit. So she would have a septic permit if required. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Stephanie Rowan.
I'm going to pass. I'm just another member of Fort Loudon Estate here to advocate for our neighborhood. So I think you all have addressed heard our issues. Unfortunately, not a lot, it seems like, you'll be able to do about it, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Last but not least, Pat Hunter. Step to the mic and tell us what's on your mind.
Thank you, Coach. My name is Pat Hunter, and I have a couple of concerns. I'm going to echo the concern that Mr. Anklin said about the Solid Waste Commission, and more specifically, and I don't like to get personal, but it's about the chairman. And I feel that the chairman's failure to notify the other members of the commission is really just unacceptable. I believe that he should either resign or be removed. The Matlock Bend landfill is an asset. It is not a liability. And I guess I'm going to be a little bit hard on Mr. Field because he was in charge of the Solid Waste Commission even back then, and he negotiated the really bad 2007 contract. And that's the contract that literally gave away the farm. Whenever an operator makes 90% of the gross tipping fees, $4 million, and then the Solid Waste Commission gets 10%, that is just unacceptable. And just think of the millions and millions of dollars that have gone to Cleveland and haven't stayed here. So I have a big concern about that. And the other thing is that the Solid Waste Commission operates under the Loudon County Solid Waste Commission interlocal agreement. In that agreement, it is the Solid Waste Commission that controls the tipping fees, not Santec. And they are in violation of that basic, agreement that was the creation of the Solid Waste Commission. And then the other thing is, if Santec gave that if the Solid Waste Commission gave the control of the tipping fee to Santec, just imagine what another company could do with that control. That is something that local government should be deciding. If they have a shortfall, there should be an adjustment, and it should be the Solid Waste Commission, not Santec or Republic. So those are two concerns that I have, and the failure, like I said, of Mr. Field to disclose this information during vital negotiations is just unacceptable. This commission needs to take action. You appoint 5 out of 7 members. 5 county citizens are on that solid waste commission. And like I said, this landfill primarily was supposed to be for our community. It wasn't supposed to take out of county waste until it was Mr. Field, Mr. Harrison, and other members of the Solid Waste Commission that voted to take in out of county waste.
Ms. Hunter, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
I think I know the answer to this. I just want to make sure that everyone else knows the answers to this. Wasn't Steve Fields involved in the first contract with Santec?
You mean the one before 2007?
Yes.
I can't remember if he was on there before that. I think it was Mr. Talbert, and then Mr. Field followed Mr. Talbert. I don't think he was there.
Wasn't one of the voting members on that contract?
In 2007, yes, he was the...
That changed the contract?
Yes,
to where
that was...
it is that has put us in such the shape?
Yes, that was supposed to be the cure-all, the 2007 contract, because before that, we had the famous put or pay, because whether we put garbage into the landfill or not, we were still paying. We were still on the losing end. So the 2007 contract was supposed to be the fix to that bad first contract. So, yes, and it was still Santec. So that is one concern that I have. Like I said, I think it's time for Mr. Field to move on. The other concern that I have, and this came during your budget committee meeting, I attend the school board meetings, and back a number of months ago, the school board did something, to my knowledge, they hadn't done before. And the school board, actually it was the executive committee, approved some budget amendments. They did not go before the school board. They simply came to the budget committee and then to county commission, and you approved them. Somehow, they went back to the school board. This time, they approved them, and then you approved them a second time. And I have the paperwork at home, I just didn't bring it. This time, there were some budget amendments that later Ms. Blair will be discussing with you. It said here that the BOE approved these budget amendments on 141 and 142 on May 28, 2020. The school board meeting was on May the 14th. I went to it. Anyway, they did not approve them on May the 14th. When I wrote to Ms. Blair, I questioned whether the executive committee had approved them, and she found out that they had. They did not go before the school board. Now, unless there were special provisions that were granted during the COVID period, the executive committee cannot approve budget amendments. Only the school board can do that. So the budget amendments were approved contingent upon asking Mr. Guerin whether COVID, during that period, he had the authority to do that. But I think it needs to go one step further. I think it needs to go to the comptroller's office and perhaps with Christy Ballard to find out if it was legal for the executive committee to do this. And I have the powers and the duties of the executive committee, and approving budget amendments is not on there. So that is one concern that I have, and I just wanted to share that with you because, you know, The school board wants, or the director has asked for a pay raise for the teachers. If the county employees received a pay raise, he wanted a pay raise for the teachers. But I am of the opinion that the school board tends to make some decisions that are not in the best interest of all taxpayers. And I can give a litany of expenditures that I feel were not in our best interest. I'll do that at the budget meeting next week. But, you know, when the executive committee acts outside of its normal powers, I have to wonder about, not only about whether policies and procedures and the law are being obeyed, but how the school system is being run. And I have a concern about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, that concludes the public comments.
Could I backtrack a little bit on the Fort Loudon Estates issue? Just because it's something that hasn't been brought up yet. My name is Bruce Berger.
Put it down.
And we have a sign in our subdivision that I imagine the county road commissioner put up that says, "No tractor trailers allowed in our subdivision." So I went and talked to the sheriff's department about it, and they said they couldn't enforce that. So I'm just wondering, how does that get enforced if the county road commissioner had it placed there? And how do we enforce that so that they cannot bring a trailer into the subdivision?
If you're going by Carl's Drive-In tonight up the hill, we had a problem such as that. I got with Mr. Simpson, and we put a sign up, if any tractor or trailers go through there, they will be fined. And I think that should stop some of the tractor trailers going through your subdivision.
Do you think that we would have the right to, as a group, to stop them ourselves by blocking the road?
No, sir, I wouldn't go with this.
No,
Just don't have.
You may be
I think there's a lot of that going on now.
maybe roadkill. Thank you. Okay. What's going to happen next is I'm going to move number 7, Commissioner Van Shaver, in the EDA discussion, up to the front because the county attorney is with us tonight. So Van, take us through your...
Chairman, can I say something? Some of these people might want to be dismissed
It's up to you.
I just wanted to give them an opportunity to.
Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Hope we can get things worked out.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
go ahead and let's let the Jim Jenkins stuff do. He doesn't want to sit here all night either. So put me behind.
Put you in front of me. I'm fine with that.
You okay? Jim, come on up to the mic on these 2 resolutions. All right.
I'm not home, so I'm all right.
Warmed over dinner isn't bad.
Dinner of any kind.
If there's cooked dinner, I'll be surprised. I didn't say that. Don't tell me that.
You're on live radio.
Your wife is listening to the radio here.
Yeah, she just heard that.
Into this. She's sitting at home right now, eyes glued to the screen of this thing.
Let's move on.
Go ahead, Jim.
This is a resolution amending the zoning map of Loudon County, Tennessee pursuant to Chapter 7, 13-7-105 of Tennessee Code Annotated to rezone approximately 14.4 acres from R1 Suburban Residential District to R1 Suburban Residential District with a PUD overlay. Located Loudon County Tax Map 007, parcels 002.04 and 2.05, located at Hickory Creek Road, Loudon County, Tennessee, situated in the 5th Legislative District.
Do you need anything from us tonight?
No, sir.
Next up.
The next one, resolution amending Loudon County map of Loudon County, Tennessee. Pursuant to Chapter 7, 13-7-105 of Tennessee Code Annotated.
Got a question about that last item, I think, back here. Sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. I'm the applicant representing the property owner. I didn't know if we could have a discussion. I understand this is a workshop and the actual vote will be next month.
June 29th.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Go ahead. This is
Go ahead.
your time if you want to speak about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Planning Commission approved the motion to rezone it with the PUD overlay. And obviously, we come before this body to change the ordinance from the R1 to the R1 PUD, which will effectively change the density from about 2.2 units an acre to 2.5 units, which is your max under a PUD. I know there had been some concerns with some previous attempts on this property regarding the roadway and going commercial, and of course residential will not cause an impact on the road, albeit most of the road issues are on the Knox County end. I think there were some questions about the sewer. We have been in communication with LCB, who has 2 years ago did an estimate for the sewer. They're not going to put it in. We would be required to do that, but we can't spend the money on that unless we know we can get the maximum density that we can for residential in there in order to spread the cost of that sewer extension. I think I had heard somebody had mentioned that the concern was with doing the PUD overlay before the sewer was in place. However, the PUD overlay, as Jim said earlier, in order to get a building permit, if you don't have sewer, the state has to sign off on a septic permit, which has minimum requirements. So it's not as if that the zoning would override the regulations for lot area for septic in the event that no sewer was put in. So it's not a carte blanche that, oh, you can put in a bunch of small lots, because it wouldn't meet the requirement.
Are you saying you got to sell the lots or buildings, whatever, before you get the money to put in the sewer?
No, we have to have it zoned such that we can have a development plan approved to get the number of units to understand what the cost will be before we move forward with any of it.
Have you got any quotes on what that sewer cost is going to be?
Yeah, well, LCB's quote was $350, but that was their engineers. I'll never be wrong number. I think it'll be a little less than that, probably around $250.
Mr. Chairman, this is our district, Commissioner Douglas.
Go ahead.
District. The citizens up there are as opposed to this. They were the commercial. I don't have a thing with the road. The road was there when Avalon was built, so the road's not an issue. My problem is our planning regulations say in order to get PUD, you have to have public sewer. Does the land have public sewer?
Not at this time, no.
Then we can't give you a PUD until you have public sewer. I know you're building chicken and egg.
Is that what the regulation says?
It's required to have the sewer to have the PUD. Of course, y'all are looking to try to get that permission.
To have the PUD.
To put in the...
Right. So there's several steps. The zoning is one thing that allows you to move forward with the planning. And then the planning has several steps through the BZA and the Planning Commission to get plans approved. But you're never going to have sewer without having it zoned to maximize the density within the R1 base zoning, which again is only 5 extra lots, but it helps the cost of those lots. That's not a hugely desirable location with the proximity of the interstate and everything else. All the traffic out of Avalon coming back and forth and stuff. So again, the zoning does not grant you the lots. The zoning grants you the ability to design the property to a certain standard. So we're in a bit of a chicken and the egg thing, I guess. So rezoning it with the PUD overlay, you would still, in the event that you tried to get a plan approved that didn't include the off-site sewer improvements, then you would revert back to the base zoning of R1, which is what it is today, which we can go develop it today. We can submit a development plan tomorrow as R1. Right. So what we're trying to do is to maximize the highest and best use for that property. But in order to do that, we have to spread that $250,000, $320,000 force main cost over as many units possible to keep the housing costs down. Because all the cost that goes into the lot cranks the house price up, right?
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do.
And I understand all those aspects of building and development, but it says you have to have public sewer to get a planned unit development overlay. Right now, hang on. And you don't have sewer right now. If you're committed to this project and it's going to be a moneymaker and it's a good idea, you'll run your sewer, you'll come back and you'll get your PUD, no questions asked. We couldn't even turn you down once you have your sewer.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to support putting a PUD overlay on a property that doesn't meet the requirements needing sewer before you can have a PUD.
I think you're misunderstanding having the PUD overlay with getting a PUD plan approved. Those are two different things. I can't even submit a PUD plan for approval without it being zoned with the PUD overlay. Really, it shouldn't be a rezoning, it should be an overlay. But this is how it's set up down here. That doesn't approve a PUD plan. You've not even seen a plan, you've seen a sketch. But the PUD plan that would be based on the PUD overlay would have to include the off-site improvements before any construction or anything can take place.
But that's not what our regulations say. In order to be considered for a planned unit development overlay rezone request, you have to have public sewer. What it says.
I'm David Pfizer. I spoke to you about this when we tried to go commercial.
Correct.
So what you're saying is you want me to spend $250,000 and then maybe I'm going to get zoned?
No, you get your PUD if you have sewer. There's no legitimate reason.
Does this whole board agree with that?
I can't speak for this whole board.
Well, I'm asking the question. You're asking me to spend $250,000 to develop the property. Mm-hmm. You didn't want it commercial. I respected that. You told me
I voted how my constituents want. It's not anything to me. I'm representing people that live there.
Fair enough. But you did say I could go build houses there.
You can start tomorrow.
And I'm willing to spend the $250,000 and run sewer that everybody else down the street can tap onto and not incur one nickel. But for me to go spend that, I need this body to assure me that I'm going to get the zoning. I'll go spend the money.
I can assure you this body, I can tell you if you come back to us and you meet the requirements for a planned unit overlay development, planned unit overlay, I'll vote for it. I won't have the choice to not vote for it. I told you the road is not...
Okay, if you don't have a choice, do you other commissioners have choices, or?
It says in our regulations that if you have sewer there, doesn't it not?
Well, it gives them an option to do it. It's still, the PUD still has to be approved through the BZA as appropriate area and use, and then that site plan would go before Planning Commission to see that they comply with the regulations.
So they could still shoot it down.
This board would be over rezoning the property. Ultimately, this is their authority to rezone.
Okay, so theoretically, I could spend the money and be denied.
By this board, I can't answer. They would answer that. BZA, you would still have to go through that process for approval, which is, they could deny.
Which was my point a minute ago.
Can I say something to address your question?
Yeah.
Most of the time, and I can only speak for myself, most of the time, and you heard earlier when they said if Gary is for the cell phone tower or against it, most of the board supports what he wants because he's the one who talks to his constituents. So if Van and Harold are in favor of your development and are going to vote for that, then historically the board has voted for that. So
well,
no
Mr.
one
Shaver, I assume that you would have the ability to change your mind if you wanted to.
If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. How about that?
I don't know you from Adam.
Yeah, me neither.
And I can't.
Adam.
Well, now I know Adam
You
too.
know the difference between me and Adam. Nobody else can know, sorry.
We don't know each other, but I'm easy to find out about. I develop property all over East Tennessee and am welcome 99% of the time, and welcome. but you're asking me to take a $250,000 gamble based on your word, and I don't know you well enough to say, okay, Mr. Shaver, done, let's get it done. You understand my side of that?
I fully, my only job tonight here is to explain our position. We represent a group of citizens that are opposed to this. I'm telling you, as a commissioner, you're asking me to approve something that under our own regulations, I can't approve. When you get sewer, you come back in here and you ask for it, then I can't say I can't approve this because you don't have sewer.
So the other,
what's your part in this? You're the landowner.
He's the landowner, I'm the engineer.
My representative and the engineer.
My name's on the applicant, I'm Russ Rackley, we spoke when the planning commission meeting.
And y'all was planning commission meeting when you were there too.
Mr. Duff, you're in the 5th District, what's your take on if we have sewer, are you all for it? Or, because you keep saying your constituents are opposed, but if we have sewer, you'll support it.
When you do your request, if it fits the description of what it is, I will support it. That's the same thing that fans there.
And we'll probably take heat from our constituents because as you've seen, you already know, they're opposed to anything there. And I've said to them numerous times to them, guys, we had complaints and concerns that didn't want Avalon to go here because Hickory Creek was too narrow. We can't take up the issue with Hickory Creek. It's the size it is. But if a man wants to do what he wants to do on his property, he has the right to do that. Right now, it's 2 per acre. If you get a PUD, it's 2.5. Now, why you would spend, and this is nothing to me, why you would spend that much money to pick up 5 more lots and I guess condense them, that's neither here nor me. But where I'm at is I can't do it under the certain circumstances. You have no public sewer.
Well, we'll go back and review, and we'll see y'all at the voting meeting next month.
That'd be fine.
June 29th, after the budget adoption, we'll do the county business, and that will be on there that night.
Okay.
So you'll know that night whether it's up or down.
Like we don't know each other. That's a gamble I can't take.
Okay. See you on June 29th.
Thank you.
What would change between now and June 29th?
Well, we'll be voting June 29th.
You can't vote tonight.
No, I understand that. I just didn't know if more information was going to be provided.
There won't be any sewer only by June 29th.
That was my question.
Yeah.
I don't know how much.
Okay.
Okay, that's why I just wanted to.
Yeah, we'll be here on the 20th.
See you then.
I'm in support of growth.
Jim, take us through B.
If I may pick up where I left off, for rezoning pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated to rezone approximately 38.1 acres from A2 Rural Residential District to A1 Agricultural Forestry District with a T1 overlay. Loudon County Tax Map 056, Parcel 181, located at 5378 Steaky Creek Road, Loudon County, Tennessee, situated in the 4th Legislative District.
Is that the one that was just discussed by this gentleman?
Yes, sir. It's in order for them to put a cell tower on the property.
Got it.
Or take it through the process.
All right.
Gary?
Gary?
Mr. Chamber, thank you for bringing that in front of us. I've had a few residents give me some phone calls. I'm not, just honest, at this point today, if I had to make a decision, I'm not for this cell phone tower.
Okay.
We live out in a country community, a great area, and a 300-foot cell phone tower sticking up for people to see. So unless some things change in the next 2 weeks, at this point, I would be voting no for this.
Okay.
You'll oppose the rezoning the whole way from cell tower.
What if that thing come over to Green Drive, would you? Because the right side of Green Drive's 1st District, so. Left side's.
That's your neighborhood.
Well, I will say that even though that's not my district, I have had some phone calls about it too, and people are very upset about it. I've heard some people that would be fine with putting it over there close to your house.
We're talking right in my plain view.
They make those things now where they camouflage them, don't they? They look like a big tree.
Have you ever seen one of those?
I've never seen one.
Golly.
Without interrupting, would it be, should I reach out to the applicant and have him attend the June 29th meeting? He's from out of state. Would it be worth it for him to come up, maybe answer some more questions?
That's up to him.
That's up to him.
Or just tell him Gary says no and he ain't gonna get it.
Thank you all.
Jim, that'll be on June 29th after the budget adoption.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hey,
Bob, and what's the latest with Mark Matlock?
Nothing's changed that I know of between Mr. Matlock.
There's plenty going on.
There is. And we need to enforce our zoning regulations. So what do we do, Bob?
I was at the last workshop, I asked this question. If we're not going to enforce it on one, we shouldn't be enforcing on anybody. That's my
I've been in contact with Mr. Matlock. He is aware that something's going to have to give. Whether right now there's lawsuits, arrests, restraining orders.
Doesn't matter us at all.
But I would just assume not to get the county in the middle of it. Let this settle down a little bit before I'll take that next step.
What's the next step, Bob?
Well, at this point, it'd be a lawsuit to enforce the.
How long ago was he told to get the roof off?
He was told 580 days ago. And how today, 580 days
It's been
today.
a long time, I believe. I haven't seen the file in a long time, but
$50 a day fine?
put the roof on, to understand, in violation of whatever variance the Board of Zoning Appeals gave.
How much can we fine him a day for that?
I don't think it'd be more than $50 a day.
That's $29,000 he owes us.
Okay, what has to trigger between Buddy, Jim, and attorney? We've been wrestling 529 days. 580. What triggers a stop to this? When does somebody walk up and say, mister, you going to take your roof off or we're going to court? I mean, when do we go to court?
He's gotten letters that have told him to take the roof off.
What's the mechanism? What am I
The next step is me to tell him you're going to get it down.
But you've told him that.
Well, but at the same time, there's also about they're fighting each other amongst everything else, just so not get the county in the middle.
But that's not got anything to do with our thing. Nothing to do with our thing. All this new legal stuff is because you did contact him. There's no question. The second side into court he got for harassment is because you told Matlock he's going to do something about his wall. So now Matlock's not going to do anything. Go to court. Who can say go to court? Is it county commission? Is it Jim? Is it Buddy?
I think Mr. Mayor has to make the trigger on that.
When will you pull the trigger? Let's go to court tomorrow.
I'll give him a deadline to meet.
What is the deadline? Another 580 days?
Come on.
I don't know. I don't know you from Adam, man. I don't know.
Give me a date, 30 days.
No.
He's had 580.
Well, you can't go out there and start hammering at it anyway. Give him 30 days. I'll call him tomorrow and tell him.
June 1st, July 1st.
Calling people from TBA that when they impounded the lake, they know how to take roofs off houses.
July 1st.
That's how it is. And you don't need to call him. He needs to have a certified letter from the county attorney is what he needs.
And how do we get our $29,000?
That's in court. It'll be in court.
Even if he takes it off, are we still entitled to that $29,000?
I don't know the chance for being that inclined to do it at that point, but I could be wrong. He might enforce the whole thing. I don't know.
Okay, let me ask you this. Are our zoning, our code, are our regulations enforceable? When you're told you can't have a structure within 6 inches of a property line and you build one, and that's a violation, and our planning commission says, get it down, is it even enforceable?
I think it is.
Well, let's do it. Work this out. Let's get this done. I don't want to hear no more about this for the rest of my life.
Mark Matlock was told that he could build a privacy wall.
Yes, sir.
And what all is included inside that privacy wall now? Does it have
It's a
bathroom?
kitchen and it has a bathroom as far as I know.
Fire roof. And a fireplace?
Yeah, and then he put a roof over it, which,
That's what tipped it with the violation.
that's what tipped it over
How
and made
can
it a
a
violation.
bathroom be included in a wall?
There were,
Is it a urinal on the side of a wall?
yeah, this was many years in the process and in the making, and he went, and this was all discussed with the planning commission, and what constituted a structure. That's what we're trying to force setbacks on. And it was columns supporting the roof become a building that would require it to meet its setbacks of 5 feet off the property line. So he just said, I'll just leave it open. He left it open, and since that time, for his own reasons, he's put a roof over it, and which they have told him he needs to remove the roof.
The planning commission, I was here at the time.
BZA, yes, sir.
BZA voted and said, you have to take the roof off now. That was 580 days ago. If you go to court with this, can you win this?
I think so. You gonna give it to me on a contingency? I got charged by the hour.
I'll tell you what, we'll do you 50-50 on this, and how about that? You collect 29, you have half of it. It's a principle. Me, I could care less what the names, I don't care if it's on Green Drive or if it was on Jeremy Nash's front yard. It's the ideal that one person can say, it don't apply to me. Everybody else has to comply. We send them little dirty letters. They have to clean up their field that's got junk in. They have to move this. Everybody either...
That doesn't always happen.
Well, I know that, but everybody either has to apply the same or not at all. This selective application of our enforcement cannot continue.
Okay.
What's the deadline?
I'll get with Bob, figure out a good date for it.
I want to hear it tonight.
What do you think's the earliest?
He owns his construction company, so it shouldn't be that hard to get it off.
I think 16 days is tight.
I've never seen the structure. I don't know what we're talking about.
There's plenty of pictures, and we don't even need those tonight. It's a pool house with a kitchen, a bathroom, everything you could want on it.
I don't have a clue.
There you go.
You can get clued in pretty quick. I'm going to make it clear. Again, I don't care who it is.
If it goes 2 weeks,
We're going in the middle of a lawsuit.
Hold on.
Regardless.
Let it go.
if it goes 2 weeks, you're still not going to get in front of the chancellor. When's he back here? August?
July 23rd.
Well, no, that's in Rowan County.
That's Rowan County.
That would be our missing commissioner that's going before the chancellor.
It's actually, I think, at the end of this month, maybe.
What is?
Chancellor coming back in.
Give him 5 days and let's get in front of the chancellor.
You won't get it on the docket that fast. But something has to start the clock to ticking. So far, every time we've talked about this for the last 580 days, we're working on it. It's coming. We're going to do this. It's like nothing's happened.
Well, it's kind of paradoxical, the fact that we've had a group in here tonight that we couldn't do anything for.
Right.
And now we've got a situation that has a remedy to it.
I will get with Bob in the morning and draft a letter.
And the letter will go out saying you have until X when to do what?
I'll give it 30 days.
To get the roof off.
Can they be arrested and jailed if he doesn't?
Does that work, Bob?
When does the chancellor come?
Every 3 months, every 4 months. Once every.
I think it may be here this week and next even, maybe.
But it's so out of whack where they've been closed down. They're way out of
Shut down
schedule.
and they're
I will say, I can't guarantee you the letter's going to go out tomorrow, but if I'm on the word, I'll get a letter out as quick as I can.
We'll get it drafted up anyway.
The letter to Matlock is what matters. With a drop dead date, have the roof off or we're filing papers the next day. That's the letter that needs to go to Mr. Matlock. Then he can do whatever he wants to. He can sue, I'd say he'll probably take out a writ on Buddy for harassment, be the next one, I'm sure it will.
And that's the entire roof, covering the kitchen and the bathroom and everything else, correct?
Jim, what?
I believe this should be, yes, sir.
Okay.
You've had a wonderful night,
We gotta get him while he's here, man.
We'll have plenty of court dates to talk about this. We'll be able to discuss it even more during the...
Jim's had one of them
Yes,
hard
sir.
places tonight.
Jim, thank you for your time.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, Commissioner Shaver, tell us about the EDA. We've got Bob here. He's gonna get a cold dinner anyway.
I'll turn this one over to Bob. Bob can tell you like you told me today.
Okay, Bob.
I guess the background, I'll set the background. The background is this issue of the Loudon County Commission, Loudon County government having to pay 68% of the cost of the EDA. And the question is, how do we undo this idiocy? We took one step and voted to cut $12,000. I'll be honest, I didn't think that would fly myself. Ultimately, we undid that. So the next thing was, let's send a letter to the other three based on an email from Bob Bowman, send a letter to the other two entities and say, okay, in 2 years, we're pulling out because we don't want to pay 68 or 62% of what it takes to fund the EDA, because at least some of us don't think we're getting our money's worth out of that, plus the fairness issue that why are the cities the benefactors and we're paying the bills. So more research, I'm going to assume that Bob will tell us. Bob is now in the same camp as the EDA and Pat Phillips and other people. We are stuck with this for the rest of our lives, and we have to pay any amount that they ever tell us. And I'll turn it over to Bob to correct me.
Well, that's, in practicality, in reality, is probably the case. So the law in question is 658-114, and I'm just going to read the highlights of certain points. Go ahead. It says in section B, there shall be, and the word is shall, be established in each county a joint economic and community development board. which shall be established by interlocal agreement. We've had an interlocal agreement for EDA since 2008. Probably there's been one in existence even before that. Another section G says the activities of the board shall be jointly funded by the participating governments. That section goes on to provide a formula for how the budget is allocated between the cities and the county. Another provision later says, however, if you had an interlocal agreement or an EDA in existence before this statute was passed, you may apply the formula for funding EDA that's in that interlocal agreement. The interlocal agreement formula presently has Loudon County paying just over 68% of the budget for EDA. That actually is better for the county than what the statutory formula is by anywhere from 5 to 7 percentage points. Then the statute goes on to say this, an annual budget to fund the activities of the board shall be recommended by the committee to the board, which shall adopt the budget for April 1 of each year. The budget and statement of the amount due from each participating government shall be immediately filed with the appropriate officer of each participating government. In the event a participating government does not fully fund its contribution, the board, that's the EDA board, may establish and impose such sanctions or conditions as it deems proper. Now, what are those sanctions? Well, there are two Attorney General's opinion. The Attorney General's opinion says those sanctions are the county members of that board lose their votes, essentially. Here's what I call...
They can't serve an executive position.
They can't serve an executive position. Here's what I call the hammer clause. It's in Section I. When applying for any state grant, a city or county shall certify its compliance with the requirements of this section. There are two Attorney General's opinions that say, based on that Section I, if you do not fully fund the EDA budget based on your percentage in either the interlocal agreement or the statute, you are prohibited as a county from receiving state grants.
Certain state grants.
Well, so one Attorney General's opinion, the 2005 Attorney General's opinion, and you have these in front of you. The 2005 Attorney General's opinion references the urban growth statute, which is about 2 sections before it. In the urban growth statute, if this county years ago had not adopted a growth plan, there are specific grants that you would be precluded from receiving under that statute. The 2005 Attorney General's opinion specifies those grants as grants that you would lose for not having a growth plan. Question whether those specific grants carry forward and apply to not funding the EDA. I don't know the answer to that.
There is no answer.
There is no answer, but I think the conservative view is you'd be precluded from getting any grants. I called Miss Blair. Did I call you over the weekend or I call you Friday?
Friday.
I asked her, when we turn in paperwork to the state for receiving any grant money, do we make this certification? And Tracy looked at a few. You didn't see anywhere that certification's on there, did you?
I did not, but neither did I pull any of our previous like TIP grants or CDBG grants. I didn't look at any of those. I was just looking at typical state grants that we get from the state of Tennessee on an annual basis.
Was it in 2003, and I'm trying to read quite a bit on this, but was it when the state started looking at economic and industrial development, the law started changing?
Well, this is Public Chapter 1101 passed in 1998, 2000.
I thought I had the public acts. This statute was first passed in 1998, and then it was amended in 2003. So that meant it could have occurred at that time.
Industrial development started getting stronger or more.
So
I thought I had the public acts.
Here's what it comes down to, what you call the hammer part. The mystery is it says grants. Tracy hasn't found, I'm not going to put anything on Tracy to do right now, she's got plenty to do. But there's no particular evidence anywhere that up to this day, since 2000, that we have had to prove that we are in compliance with Public Chapter 1101 in any shape, form, or fashion in order to receive a grant. If it's the same grants listed in 658-110, which is the 6 specific grants, if you don't have one.
I can read them to you.
Well, I've got them. I don't need them. I've got them.
I don't think everybody else has that, but
well, none of these grants are grants that are of enormous importance to the county, I would say. Some we've never ever had. The main one will be CDBG, but we all kind of know how that works. It's usually a utility somewhere. So we've got it out right now, and you can't get another one until this one's paid. Or I don't even remember how it works, but it's a long, drawn-out process on CDBG grants.
But our rescue squad also takes advantage of that, too.
They haven't got it.
No, they haven't got it.
It will include tourism development grants. It also mentions Intermodal Surface Transportation Act funds or any subsequent federal authorization for transportation funds.
That be TPO?
I don't know if we receive any federal money through the state for our roads or not.
That's Transportation Planning Organization out in Knoxville.
Well, just as a pure, coincidence, the two you cited, just last week, Jack sent us a little note email, said, guess what? We got applications out for the tourism grant and the multi-model grant.
Well, I'm just starting at the bottom.
I understand.
I haven't talked to Jack about those grants.
I'm just saying what a coincidence, but there are 6.
Industrial training.
What it comes down to, and I told somebody the other day, I said, when Bob Bowman speaks tonight, it may as well have been God taking his finger with lightning and carving in stone. There is no way there will ever be 6 votes here to change this. Also, from this night forward, the EDA will be able to come to this body and say, we got to have more. We got to have more. We got to have more. So this is a disastrous law. Bob mentioned to me, did we want to try to handle it statutorily? Do we want to call on our representatives to take a look at this and see? We all know that's a total waste of time. You can't get anything done that's easy to do statutorily. So what it really comes down to, based on what Bobby said, is we're stuck. Jack's got a job till he retires, like Pat Phillips did. We have to pay any amount they say, and the cities get all the benefit from it, and we get nothing. That's kind of where we're at, right? So, hang on a minute. So for me to keep pushing for equal pay for EDA, because that makes all the sense in the world, is a waste of everybody's time.
Well, when they say that, and you probably, I don't know if you know it or not, Jack and I, when they decided on the formula for funding, who pays what and how much, was that based on the ability to pay? What was it?
That was on population, based on population. Now, that's in the statutory formula.
Right.
Van and I talked, Commissioner Shaler and I talked this morning about how that 68% got put in the interlocal agreement, and I don't have...
Nobody knows that one, but Loudon pays more than Lenore City, so it's not based, ours has never been based on population. Pat Phillips told me it was on industrial properties, is how they originally...
You had the letter that George Miller sent in 2000 that explains that.
The industrial property?
No, it explains the percentages, and that was part of the interlocal, they used that to, I emailed it to everyone up there. That was the letter that George Miller sent back in 2000. It basically states that we have this in place. Please.
This was asking the state to approve our,
interlocal, that was to do their joint economic development board, and that's where the percentage first came into play at 68%.
But what was it
We
based
want to
on?
see why it came at 68 instead of just George Miller writing it in a letter stating that that's what it was.
But that letter only is George Miller repeating, here's how it's done. I don't think that letter
I think it went back farther than that.
Well,
it does.
So let me say this. Because our funding mechanism is through the interlocal agreement, that agreement does have an amendment provision that you've got to get all the parties to it to agree.
And ours has, the also the part, we can pull out. But now with 1101, you can't pull out. Pat Phillips with a big smile on his face was so happy to tell me that when that comes
Who's
out.
going to agree from Loudon City to up theirs and from Lenore City to up theirs? That's what gets me.
Well, here's, like I said, it's written in stone now.
So the EDA got out of control, so we're raising our budget to $5 million.
We have to pay it.
You get 68%.
We could give 2 years notice, but then fall under the 1101 formula?
You can't come out. ever.
We can't fall under,
Yeah, you can come out with an interlocal agreement, but you're going to end up paying a higher percentage. I don't think you want to do that.
yeah.
And just for the record, we've not raised the budget.
I was just asking, I
Just so you know.
We
And
understand.
that's because some of us have pitched a fit about this ridiculous agreement since 2002. But it's over now.
Well, for that to have like a huge budget increase, would that not, well,
They can do
It's
anything,
still-
the board can say anything.
yeah, but
they
you've got
want.
representation from all three entities that know they're gonna have to put up more as
You have a
well.
board member, you have two board members sitting here tonight
Absolutely.
that has
And they
representation
vote
for
for
this
whatever
entire
comes before the
commission.
board.
And they can control any budgetary items necessary.
Two can't control a membership of 9.
It's a place to start.
The cities
Especially
get
since one of them is
to
the
vote on
chairman.
us paying more money.
Especially since one of them is the chairman of the board.
Well, anyhow, we beat it to
Chairman
death.
only gets one vote.
Can we get 68% of the vote since we pay 68% of the bill?
We ought to.
Another, I mean, if you're worried about the hammer provision in statute.
I'm not,
There is an option to ask for the Attorney General's opinion as to what grants that applies to, whether it includes just the ones listed in
Well, if it includes the federal grant,
658, 110, or whatever. All grants.
It took us 4 votes just to invite you down.
Matt?
It took 4 rounds of votes.
It's federal.
Just to invite you down here.
Federal gives state money to the state distribute. This is all state stuff.
Jack, we drafted a letter sent to the state, whoever, about having all of the interstate highways in Loudon County. If we were, could this be stopped?
I can't answer that.
That is federal funds?
I can't answer that. Any roads that are inside the urbanized boundary would go to the TPO for federal funds. Any roads outside of that, which is probably over half of your county, it still receives federal and state funds, so I can't answer that. I know the grant that I'm getting ready to talk about, as far as the Freestar goes, that is a provision that we're required to have the Joint Economic Development Board in order to get that grant. This year, we got $37,500 that's going to the 2 school districts, so that would have been a program that we wouldn't have been eligible for without that.
Going where?
Half of it's going to the city of Loudon, or the Lenore City School Board, and half of it's going to the Loudon County School Board.
So the county didn't get anything, and we still spend $85,000.
You got 18,000 and some change out of the 37. Yeah, you got half of it.
Who did?
The school system did.
We're not the school system, Miles. We're county commission. There's a $40 million budget. That's not us.
It's good to buy kids STEM. They're buying robotics with it, so we can train our next generation workforce to work in our manufacturing sector. So it affects you.
Any more on the EDA?
You mentioned urban growth boundary, so I have one question about that. So if I have a piece of property that I want to develop into a neighborhood in the urban growth boundary, what's the process for that to get approved? Does it come through the county at all, or is it all handled by Lenore City? Not in Blount County.
I recently went through something in another county where the property was solely inside the county, not inside the city limits of the city. However, it was in the urban growth boundary of the city. So the rezoning first went to the city regional planning commission for recommendation to the county commission about the rezoning. I think that's the proper process.
We didn't get Emily's Landing went through Lenore City. It never
But it
came.
had
their urban growth.
Here's
But it
how.
never came to us.
It did not. The urban growth boundary.
He said it comes back to county commission for.
No, nothing comes back. It has to, our regulations have to apply inside the urban growth boundary outside the city limits.
But who approves them?
Well,
The city.
wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. Are you talking about urban growth boundary inside the city?
Outside the city limits, urban growth boundary. Let me give you, for instance, we've got one string of the UGB that comes all the way up and gets my farm. I got 200 acres in it.
Are you in the city of Lenore City?
I am not.
Okay.
Nothing in there is in the city of Lenore City. It's all outside, but it's in the big UGB that Lenore City did back in 2000.
Sure.
So up next to him, in his district, there's a section of part of the old golf course. A year, 2 years ago, whenever it was, He's in the UGB, so he comes to Lenore City and says, I would like to be annexed. Well, in 2017, the legislature amended 1101. No longer does it have to be contiguous to the city limits. As long as it's UGB, Lenore City can go 2.5 miles outside the city limits and annex a piece of property.
Only if it's in their urbanized boundary.
That's what I'm saying. If
But
it's
not in the county's
UGB.
urbanized boundary. And the other stipulation with that is, if you own a piece of property that's inside the city limits, and it's not in the urban growth boundary, and it's contiguous to the other piece of property is, you can annex it in.
Well, just as a note of interest, Loudon County has a court-ordered signed agreement with Lenore City from 2005 that Lenore City will not annex anybody in the UGB, out in the UGB, anywhere, without permission or request of the property owner. We went to court.
We can't annex anybody anymore. They have to request to be annexed.
We don't annex people. This is the cities we're
The
talking
city
about.
can't annex anybody.
They can't under our court order. They cannot under our court order unless
They
they
can't
have.
in the state of Tennessee.
Please let me finish just once. How about that? So right now, Lenore City could go all the way to the end, 2.5 miles to the old golf course and annex a piece of property and nothing in between there and there. Is how ours is. But anything in the UGB outside the city limits falls under our planning regulations.
But you're saying that the city looks at it and then sends it to us.
Never happened in history.
Well, I think that's the proper procedure.
Well, we need to find out if it is.
If it's a property that's not inside the city limits.
Correct.
County property.
Correct.
But it's in the city's urban growth plan.
Correct.
I think the proper procedure. Now, I've not looked at the zoning regulations of either the city or the Loudon County for this issue, but I can tell you how we did it in Sullivan County. Is the zoning application first went to the Kingsport Regional Planning Commission for review, and then, based on its recommendation, it then went to the Sullivan County Commission.
Well, I would like to ask you
the final amendment of the county zoning regulation to allow.
I would like you to find out that's the case, because right now, we never see anything that happens in Lenore City or Loudon's UGB for that matter. One big development over in Mr. Satterfield's subdivision that is not going to be a positive for our community whatsoever, but Lenore City approved it. It was before we had adopted the 2.5. Everything in Loudon County now is 2.5 per acre max.
Well, let me ask this. Whose zoning regulation applies to that property?
Ours. Ours.
It has to come back here.
It never comes back.
Then let me ask you, he went home to Jefferson County. Let me ask you this, so let's say I buy Vance Farm, which I had to win the lottery and I still wouldn't buy it, but I want to do a subdivision. Who would approve the subdivision plan? The city or the county?
Right now,
Right now it's Lenore City.
But is it all solely in the county?
But it's in their UGB, so they're handling it. So this is what we need to do.
I think the Lenore City Planning Commission would handle it, but then ultimately, the rezoning question shouldn't come back to this.
Never comes
But
to
no,
Loudon County.
let's just say there's no rezoning. It's just a subdivision plat to be approved. That's in the county, but it's in Lenore City's UGB.
Oh.
Who looked at that? It's county subdivision regulations.
That's just like if you go across.
I don't know the answer.
You go across the bridge on 321, Emily's Landing.
I've only dealt with rezoning issues.
Well,
when you look at both of those.
Fort Loudon Estates 1, and we got nothing on that. That was all.
Yeah.
And that was a real. Joyce Leo. That was the original property. You go back far enough to know that name, last name Leo. That's who owned that property, right there where Emily's Landing is now.
Well, that's what kind of, when all that took place, I thought we would see something about it, because they've stuck them in there just like.
Absolutely.
So can you look at those two questions? I mean, the zoning part we discussed, it should come back to us.
It would probably be more to get a phone call from the board to remind me exactly what the two are. The wires are crossed on both issues, but I think I understand.
Our planning commission sees nothing that ever is in the Lenore City UGB outside of the city limits. Never comes to our planning commission, right?
Your credits, but it's inside the Lenore City.
No. It's in the county. Oh, it's in their urban growth boundary, but it's not inside the city.
Yeah, I think it would go to their planning commission. Any rezoning would still have to come to this body. This is the body that can amend
Never happened.
zoning
Never happened. Never happened. And since 2001, the adoption of 1101, it's never happened.
And here's my last question, since you mentioned regional.
That seems a little curious to me.
It's real curious.
Is Loudon County still a regional planning commission?
It's not.
Well, I don't think so.
When Little City pulled out, regional ceased.
So then, should we have city representatives on it?
Well, you got interlocal agreement that creates that.
No, we don't.
The planning commission?
In 2009, when Little City went away, the planning commission used to be governed just exactly like the EDA.
Oh, wait a minute. Loudon, City of Loudon has its own planning commission, doesn't it?
Loudon City?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they have their own planning.
They don't get their own planner.
Yeah, that's the difference. But right now, we have representatives on our planning commission that are still here because they are members of the Little City Planning Commission. They are members of the Loudon City Planning Commission. They're still on this body, on the planning commission.
So should that be changed? So should that, I'll ask you about that tomorrow.
Yeah, those are all requires some study.
I thought you may be getting bored.
I just have a quick question for Bob there.
See what happens when you show up? We got a lot of questions.
If we go back on this EDA, to the original agreement, pass the letter from George Miller that where we can find how it is divided up for the 60 acres.
Pick this up snacks and go cut it.
Will that oversee anything?
We'll be here a while.
Yeah, overrule, sorry.
Spells out what the percentages are. I'm not curious as to how they arrived at those numbers. I don't know.
Nobody knows.
Mr. Shaver doesn't know.
If we come up and find where it does say how they arrived at those numbers,
It's not going to change what the agreement says.
The agreement says 2008.
When you get Loudon and Little City to agree to pay an equal share, or even a tad more, and the county pay a tad less, that's our only possible way to do it unless the law is changed. Now, what's the odds that Loudon and Little City will agree to pay more?
To hold the winter
It's starting to snow outside.
Does the Public Chapter 1101, when it was all passed, and my gosh, what a fight there was on all that. I wish Harold hadn't left, because I mean, we were involved in fights on that one. At the time in 2000, supposedly, it was a 20-year experiment to expire in 2020. That was what we were all told. As bad as it is, as much as you hate your agreement, because the county never did like what the city did, it's okay. It's only for 20 years, and then it's over. Is there any legitimacy to that whatsoever?
I'll have to look. I'm not.
Put that on your notes.
I got a note for you.
He's making a list of notes.
there was a 20-year agreement?
Yes, for Public Chapter 1101. 1101 was written because the cities and counties stayed in court all the time over annexations. So the legislature, in their genius, brilliant way of doing things, said, we'll fix this. Right now, today, every city has to decide their urban growth areas. David was here. The urban growth areas, where you think you're going to grow for the next 20 years, you've got to draw a line around that, and for the next 20 years, you can't go anywhere outside that line.
Cities were doing strip annexation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Everybody was.
That's exactly what it was. So the state was going to fix it, and once these lines were drawn, the county had to agree to the lines, the city had to agree. When Little Cities first came in, it was everything from the river up. They took it off. Loudon took everything from the river down. Well, we whittled it down, and there was a big committee, and it was a whole it was a process. Ultimately, they came to the conclusion, here's our lines, set for 20 years. Now, Lenore City, you can't annex anywhere outside these lines for 20 years. In fact, you can't annex anywhere unless it's contiguous to your current city limits. That held up for a few years, and finally in 2017, they passed the law in 1101 to amend it to say, Little City, Loudon, you go anywhere in your UGB, don't matter how far out it is, you can annex anything, don't matter.
There's nothing in the statute about sunsetting.
I didn't think there probably was. But that was what we were told by these, we had big high officials from the state here.
So if they want to go 12 miles out from Lenore City and annex
If it's in the UGB.
and annex a grocery store?
Yes, they can do it.
Or a movie theater?
That's right. Any property taxes, now there's a time frame, how long before they actually get to take the sales tax off of them. A year, two, I don't even remember what it is. They can't get it instantly because the county has to have time to adjust to the law of sale tax. But that was part of it too. It was the stupidest thing the state, well, almost as dumb as the $911,000 thing they just done to us, but if it comes from the state of Tennessee, it's idiotic 9 times out of 10.
Call your state rep.
Yeah.
How about a break, Mr. Chairman?
I'm going to tell you this, I think we beat the EDA to death tonight.
We spent 3 hours on it, and only thing we've ever come to, a majority owner is to invite Bob down to a meeting.
That's it.
He clarified it for us though, real quick.
Well, maybe we can invite him to leave now.
It's not clarified.
Okay, the next
finish up. I don't care. We can finish up.
We got
don't have
17
that.
more minutes of his billable hour.
We are.
I'm not getting paid anymore.
He's already paid, man.
Oh, my bad.
We ought to be able to shoot through these pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right.
May I be excused, Mr. Chairman?
You may be excused.
Thank y'all.
Put your dinner on minute and a half in the microwave.
Mayor said something about that he was buying you dinner, so you might.
That's okay.
If you want to wait another hour or two.
I think I see the Chick-fil-A in Lenore City in my future.
I'd say they're close.
We'll love those tax dollars in Lenore City. Thank you very much.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you, Bob.
Again, you all know, my phone's open y'all 24/7.
Especially when you're on vacation.
Even on vacation, I'm not going to name any names, but that's okay.
I only emailed you twice on vacation. I didn't call you once.
Mayor Bradshaw, take us through your items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 1 and 2 are library board appointments. One is the Loudon County Library Board of Directors. The other is Mr. Baker, over the Ocoee River Regional Library Board. Both those 3-year terms ending in 2023. B under mine is animal shelter updates. I don't think it's going to happen now. There was a lot of rumbling about Monroe County shutting down their animal control service. So I think they probably had a rally tonight at the...
Did they change their mind?
I don't know. I haven't heard yet.
I haven't heard.
In the event of, I would like for us to have some form of teeth, whether it was in the form of, yeah, we'll take your out-of-county animal for $250 or something like that. Only in the event that when somebody pulls up, and I've seen it happen, pulls up, throws the dog out, crate and all, into the middle of the library, we could have cameras set, we could go after them for something.
$500.
I think we play that later. I don't care, $500 even. I think we play that, wait and see how that plays out tonight before we move any
But
further
what you
action.
just said was just to have a camera to see who did it.
No, whereas if they come up and through the animal, I've seen them throw cats.
But you're not recommending that we do a out-of-county fee thing?
Well, you'd have to have that in place if we chose to pursue somebody for doing something like that. But like I said, I don't think it's going to happen, so it may all be
I
a moot
hope it
point.
doesn't, but it's like the out-of-county student thing. It won't pay for itself no matter what.
$500 a dog, it would? Yeah.
They ain't gonna pay $500.
But
They gonna throw the dog out and run.
nothing even as drastic when we were taking Blount County's animals for those couple of
that wasn't
years. That was disaster. Like I said, maybe Monroe County will get it sorted out. The electronic voting system, before I get a total sum, is there interest from this commission for me to get a total sum? This would allow us to go paperless and everything. It's not on here. Here it is. It was a late edition. We've had the committee get together with commission. Y'all want me to continue to search it out and see what it would be, a bottom line, where we can go paperless and everything be electronic?
I got a couple questions. Would all of our agendas be paperless?
They could be, yes.
Could we all have to get laptops?
No, there's a very economical
What's a tablet? It's a digital
tablet, but you can write on it and everything.
And we'd have to buy a display though to show our votes and everything in?
We got a TV coming right here.
Well,
anyway.
but the problem is, like, we may be showing something else on the TV. We discussed this earlier. We may be showing other stuff on the TV and whatnot. Like,
I won't
it's a
use
map or something.
I think that's
I don't think
waste of money.
I don't think I'd like it.
I'm sorry Rich Anklin's gone. If we got a problem keeping up here, he's give us a copy of it.
Actually, it makes Tammy's job easier.
I
What about the rest of the commission? Is it something y'all want me to pursue further?
I do not.
Especially y'all that were on the...
Well, it's $3,400 a year, right?
There's
I'm
different
in favor of something like that, not now.
Okay.
Not at this current budget. You know, so if we're at a position where we've got money to spend on something like that, then that would be one thing. But right now, I don't, in my opinion, probably not the best time to buy that.
Fair enough. Y'all good with that?
If it would make Tammy's job easier, I'd look at a closely.
I'll get some rough numbers. I'll get very rough numbers and get it out.
That's not gonna fix Tammy's job of having it on screen. We'll still be here for 4 hours.
Well, actually,
you got it.
It's gonna be helping Tammy's job easier too, so.
Okay, if you change your mind, let me know. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay, the only exception I would make on out-of-county animals would be for pugs.
We've already covered that. Pugs, no.
Jack Walls.
Again,
I'd spot a Democrat. No, I didn't say that out loud.
Wow. In your packet,
I'm talking about
the blue shirt. All right. In your packet, every year for 3-star, we're required to come to the county commission to make sure you have debt management policies in place, and so that's essentially what this is. You've been doing this ever since you've had a 3-star program in the
We have
county.
debt management policy in place, Tracy? We do.
So that's what this is. So.
Okay, but there it is.
run. Run, Jack, run.
Well, we can cut those Satterfield.
Commissioner Satterfield, you're gonna take it off or leave it on?
Oh, we've already done that.
Handle it.
Okay. Gary, Commissioner Whitfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was for the Littoral Voting Center. We ran some numbers through capital projects today and went through budget committee, and I appreciate the support, and get to vote on it next week.
June 29th, it'll be on the agenda.
Did you tell us what the cost is?
No, sir. Would you like me to?
Either tonight or 29.
Yeah, we got it.
Here we got it, it was 35.
I'm just talking about for the full budget here.
Okay.
Everybody wasn't in the budget meeting.
The cost at this point was $50,000.
$50,000. And my opposition to it will be that they don't have to have one. We're not building a voting precinct, we're building a community center, and I need one in my district.
I made a recommendation, we build one in yours this year, 2050.
But that's too far away.
Put it on the agenda and we'll vote for it.
Put one of mine in 2007.
The good thing about this, though, is it's county property that the county owns.
County building. That's
County building.
And
Where they vote in March?
It's not a remote.
Where they vote in March?
There's no West.
Where did they vote in March?
They voted at the
Answer.
fire hall.
They voted at the fire hall.
That's all.
With portable
This is a 9-1, no need to continue.
That's right.
The 9-1's over. You've not heard that message yet, have you? They took all the restrictions off of 9-1.
No. I'm saying this vote is 9-1. It can be extra.
Well, I just want to point out, I've got to go through this, I won't have to on the 29th, but I want to say something about the 29th. In the 2018 election, day of vote, there was 172. The 2018 February vote, it was 110. And in the whatever 18 vote, it was 75. So this is the number we're talking about. Now, again, they can vote at Philadelphia. They live closer to Philadelphia to vote than my folks in the 5th district live to each crossroads. So let's not pretend.
you have better roads, wider roads, transportation.
Let's not pretend this is about needing a voting location. Let's call it what it is. We're building a community center in Luttrell. Fair?
All the things that we do for the people in Loudon County, this is.
Let me, we've heard how many times Henry has said this tonight. We talked about this briefly in the budget committee. The 29th meeting is going to be a bear, just because of a lot of things, not fussing and fighting, but because of a lot of things we have to do when budgets come through. We've done this 2 or 3 different ways. On the 29th, we have said, we're doing nothing but budget on the 29th.
I don't understand why we've got so many extra things added on at the end.
Well, it's just regular commission stuff. But sometimes in the past, we bumped all those things that weren't absolutely necessary to August. Do we want regular commission meeting and budget adoption meeting all together in one night?
I don't.
I don't either, but that's...
I haven't seen the agenda. I don't know what's on the agenda.
I've heard Henry say 18 times tonight it'll be on the agenda 29th.
It's gotta be, what we usually do is budget adoption and take care of the county business.
You can push mine out a month if it'll help you guys.
My boards, take my boards off, we'll do those in August.
See, I mean, this is how you can do, anything we can eliminate at the June 29th meeting would be great.
Just watch, this will last 20 minutes.
Whatever you need to do, and it helps you.
Okay, so right now,
Any big things other than the budget.
hold on, I've got the resolutions for the first A and B and the electoral voting center. That's the only thing that'll be on the county for the 29th.
Amendments.
Tracy will have
And Tracy's
lots of
amendments.
But they don't take long to vote on.
Those are those year-end ones that are $5 here to $10
Especially when I
here.
don't have to read my statement.
That'd cut down a lot of time right there.
I might just leave anyway.
Well, I'll miss Matt Tinker saying
I couldn't
because
tell
I'm an
you. I couldn't
employee.
tell you. I don't know.
Doesn't sound like there's that much to do. How about,
I'm just, it don't matter to me. I'm stay all night.
why don't we take care of it on the front end and then do the budget?
It's August.
I'm gonna get that budget finished.
We have one commissioner that's gonna be driving 6 hours in to be here and 6 hours to go back when it's done. He would really like to be as early as possible.
We're not have, but there's no way we'll ever be able to do like,
School board.
FaceTime, where you can participate.
You can now.
and leave.
Vacations don't qualify.
Well, no, I might be sick with COVID.
You're not.
I mean, is that something that can be?
I asked you that, you said no, we can't.
You can.
Yeah, we can now do this new COVID stuff.
Can what?
Vote.
Electronically?
Yeah.
One person can vote from a distance? No.
Find out.
I think so.
I thought you could. That's why I asked.
in the morning?
Please.
That
put
might
it
be
on
a
the list.
question.
The school board, the legislature passed,
Yeah,
the
but
school board can do it.
but this just was be the same thing as meeting electronically.
That's my point.
What I thought too.
I don't believe it. I'd have to see it written somewhere.
Find out. That would save me a lot.
Yeah, you can.
I got some class tomorrow.
Will you let me know as soon as you find out?
Just, but it was very
Tammy
specific.
won't be in another meeting.
Yeah, we want to see Tammy.
If you have a underlying condition that makes you more susceptible, it's not going to.
I sit next to Dan.
I'll start smoking in the morning.
On the bank, man?
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Buddy, will you find out?
If it is, it has to be COVID related.
Okay.
I'm calling them off.
You're gonna
Going
drive
to the
6
specialist
hours.
hospital in South Carolina.
Call us from the ventilator. All
Okay, what's next?
You're getting away from the COVID.
right.
That's good.
Tracy Blair, take us through the two budget amendments.
Yes, you will have budget amendments. Oh, I haven't distributed them. The only ones that the Budget Committee reviewed is what's being distributed, and that's two of the funds in the Board of Ed, General Purpose School and School Federal Projects. The rest of them were incomplete, so the Budget Committee will review them at their meeting on the 24th. And as the mayor said, it's typical year-end things that will be on those amendments.
And the school board's amendments are pending on the outcome of the...
That's correct.
That was the budget committee's recommendation.
There was a question about, it was raised down here, wasn't it? Okay.
Both places.
A question about whether or not the executive committee could approve those amendments. Do you know the answer to that?
I do not know.
Okay.
I'm not involved, I'm not on that committee.
Okay. I'll find that out.
I think it's, the committee is Mr. Aaron and
The chair. Commissioner Whitfield talked about the $50,000 that's recommended for Luttrell Community Center. Capital Projects Committee and Budget Committee also recommend a total of $5,224. That's for 3 cameras, TV, and laptop in this room for that equipment. This will be on your next agenda, but it'll be appropriated in the next year's budget because this meeting will take place on the 29th. And then, of course, the other thing that will be on that agenda is budget adoption. You have your 3 resolutions. Everybody is probably aware of the changes in the $911,000 grant.
I'm not.
You're not.
States removed all restrictions.
Commissioner Shaver will tell you right now. I can tell.
Matt, you want to swing by in the morning, I'll fill you in.
What needs to happen, what I'm gonna say is everybody probably should try to come to our budget meeting on the 25th.
24th.
So is this gonna change the whole?
It changes. It fouls up everything.
This has to get pushed back until July.
No.
I don't have to be.
There is no movement. 29th, we're having a budget vote.
It could, but it doesn't necessarily have to.
I don't think ultimately it will, but.
I don't think it will.
No.
But now we can spend it however we want to. But, yeah, everybody mark down the 20.
It is.
what?
25th.
25th, 10 o'clock.
24th.
No, it's gotta be 24.
24th, 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock.
Down here at the county building.
26th.
Because statutorily, we have to meet again after the public hearing. The public hearing is 22nd.
Yes.
And now remember, the public hearing, the budget committee has to sit here and hear from the public. That's what we do. I don't even know if we speak back, and I don't know what we'll do, but that's what that is. But by law, we have to meet after that to go over everything that's been said to us, public hearing, or county commission, or anything. But at that meeting, I think Tracy will be prepared to tell all of us how the best way to handle the 9/11 is so it does not foul our process of getting a budget passed. Is that fair to say? Is that what Commissioner Shaver's going to say?
I have a question.
That's fair to say.
Fair to say.
On that money, can it be used for recurring expenses?
Anything.
It can now.
I was just curious for my own, I was off today. Did the same go for the money for the schools?
We don't know. That's federal, isn't it?
I don't know, and I didn't get notification on that.
I think
Actually,
yours
I
is
didn't get-
federal.
Well,
If it is, man, would that not be exciting? Find out tomorrow and let us know.
Well, I'll know, I'll find out in the morning.
Of course, Tracy has not received an official notification from the state.
I have not.
This-
It was published in TCSA newsletter.
So we're looking in their crystal ball and hoping.
Well, this
Well, they
this,
said it was
Published in the newsletter.
this was discussed about 2 months ago, and it was really, there was a lot of kickback, hence why I don't understand why all of a sudden it's came back under the cover of night and fast like that.
Unbelievable. It didn't, the governor just did it. This isn't the legislature, this is the governor.
There was a lot of county mayors opposed it when it happened, just for the simple fact that you use it for reoccurring. At the end of this, you're going, I trust this commission, and inherently, you get a lot of commissions that at the end of, they had $1 million grant. At the end of that next year, they'd have $1 million and absolutely nothing to show for it. And that was the whole deal about it not being used on reoccurring
Right now,
expenses. So,
right now, our budget recommendation from the budget committee to the full commission will spend $1.7 million out of our fund balance. If on the night of adoption.
on paper.
If at the night of adoption, we move the 2 pennies over to the school board for their raises, that takes us to spending $2 million from our fund
How
balance.
did it change from 2 weeks ago? It wasn't 1.7.
It's not changed, that's the same.
It was.
That would still put your fund balance at
County General Fund,
$4,770,000.
it was.
Whatever we are now, it's gonna be $2 million less if we go with the 2 penny switch.
1.7.
Just to say out loud, if we didn't do the 2 pennies, and if we didn't do any raises across the board, we add about $1.4 million back to the budget. We spend about $500,000 to $600,000 into the hole. Just food for thought. What Tracy has said we should do on the 9/11 part is leave it where it's at. In capital projects. If we move it from capital projects over to anywhere else, that's going to be significant enough change in the budget that we would have to start over with our public notices, our presentations, and all that sort of stuff, which pushes us on into July and August. Right?
Well,
That's not exactly, I think.
That is exactly.
you talking about on your proposal? Is that what you mean? Leave it as it is? You mean leave your proposal as it
What we discussed
is?
in budget, leave our current proposal as it is.
Yeah, leave your proposal as it is.
As far as the 9/11, we're just talking about the 9/11 right now.
And the
Leaving
reason,
capital projects.
the reasoning behind that is the way the Budget Committee's proposal is prepared with the utilization of the $911,000, well, it affects the property tax rate. Property tax pennies got shifted around based on utilization of the $911,000. Well, that property tax rate and what you intend to do, that's been published. So it's kind of the domino effect of starting to move things and addressing the whole thing.
Well, that makes it even, if I may speak, Chairman, it makes it even, more fishy that you're voting for a budget you know you're going to make some major changes to. You know, you understand?
So the $911,000.
You're voting for something you know is not going to happen.
The $911,000 is state revenue coming in, and the proposal has it in general capital projects, because according to the original guidelines, that's where it should have been budgeted. Now, keep in mind that the adoption of the budget is 3 resolutions. It's your appropriations resolution, your tax levy resolution, and then your nonprofit organization. If utilization, for example, just an example, if utilization of the $911,000 would encourage or cause this commission to make some adjustments in the tax penny distribution on the night of adoption, okay, just, for example, let's just say, well, since we've got the $911,000 and we can do whatever we want, let's just give 2 property tax pennies to the highway department. And that happens on the floor. Okay, you can do that.
Right.
And then you can later revise the $911,000 revenue budget to put it in the county general fund, because the revenue budget is not, that's not part of the appropriations resolution. Appropriations resolution is, its expenses is appropriations. The entire budget is referenced by attachment. So if there's a reason that can't be done, then I will research that and I'll let you know. But because it's state revenue and their requirements change, that's why I think it's okay. It's not like it's local taxes and you adopt a budget and then you change local taxes.
But, the thing that also addressed is that everything that we had earmarked at this point that we were going to use the state funds for will stay.
And if that's going to happen, then leave it.
Then that's fine, but that's not what was,
Nothing's changed, the expenses, it's just a matter of we move.
Why are people excited that the restrictions are off of it then if nothing's gonna change?
Because we haven't.
I'm not.
Well, you move it.
I think it's a horrible idea.
No, we're not gonna move it tonight of the meeting, it's not gonna move anywhere.
Ever.
Well, depending on what this commission decides later on, what it's gonna buy hasn't changed. It's still gonna buy the same stuff.
The 29th, it hasn't changed, but it might change down the road. And that's what I'm saying, if it's earmarked to go for these 5 things.
It's still going for those 5 things.
Still gonna pay them.
The amount we have earmarked.
How much is left over?
200,000? How much?
We've spent, we can only come up with about $300,000 scratching and digging.
Fine, so not all 900,000 is earmarked?
No.
That's
We couldn't even find anywhere to go with.
That was the question.
I
So if all 900,000 were earmarked and then we're going to approve that and then change all that, I'm not.
Not at all.
It was,
Okay, perfect.
No, like I said, we scratched out, Tracy went in every budget and pulled out anything that qualified.
Now, I understand, I got it.
Got it.
And it'll be this body ultimately decides what the 9/11, how it stays.
You understand what I was saying?
Yes, I understand. That's why I say it'd be real good if everybody could come on our 24th meeting just to hear this then, and we won't have to go through it on the 29th.
Okay.
Adam, I need you.
Let me know something tomorrow.
Anything else? Tracy?
I'm finished, sir.
Okay.
I'm tired.
I told you, didn't I? I told you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How long this thing gonna last? I told you. No, Mr. Nash too, he didn't believe me.
Thank y'all.
Okay. We'll consider it adjourned. The work